We have Emily Saliers from the Indigo Girls with us today for the first cut. So excited. I've been such a longtime fan. So it's great to have you, Emily. And thank you for being here. The new album, I love, Look Long. Fantastic.
Thank you. It's great to be with you too. And thanks for playing our music and supporting. We were just talking about when we were at the record store together back in the dark ages, but
your ecstasy.
I miss record stores.
Right.
So it's good to be with you and look behind you and see all those CDs and albums up on your wall. So yeah, and thanks. The new album it came out in May, and Amy and I recorded it in London and in Bath, near Bath. And so we got together with a bunch of our UK and Irish friends and had a blast making it. So I think it kind of comes across when you hear the album.
It really does. Yeah. It's just a fantastic album. So for the first cut, we're going to ask you some questions, get to know you a little bit better, and then we'll ask you some things that are more present. But our first question is, what was the first record that you fell in love with?
The Jackson 5. My dad let me earn a penny by picking a dandelion so I could earn some money. He just thought of a task. And I picked 500 dandelions and went to the record store and bought my first Jackson 5 album, and I was completely obsessed.
What song really stood out for you from that?
I think the album must have been ABC. It was a real early one. I was just a little kid. Everything, I loved I Want You Back and ABC, and I loved everything that they ever did. And I don't know what it was about them. They captured me.
Well, they had insanely catchy songs for one thing.
And great arrangements, great production. And then Michael's voice. I mean, I'd never heard anything like it. Yeah. You were either like Osmond Brothers or Jackson 5, and I was Jackson 5 all the way.
Me too.
Yeah.
Do you remember watching their cartoon? Because they had a cartoon for a while.
Yep. I watched the cartoon, and recently one of our listeners gave me a T-shirt that had the Jackson 5 on it. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah. What was the first song you learned on an instrument, and what instrument was that?
Well, I took guitar lessons at the YMCA when I was 9. So that's when I first started playing guitar. And I had to dig through my memory to see if this is accurate, but I think it was that song, if you miss the train I'm on, you will know that I am gone. 500 miles.
Yes.
Maybe Peter, Paul, and Mary did that. And so it just switched back between E minor and A minor. And I was in a little group class at the YMCA, and I remember learning that song. So that's probably the first one. And the other songs I learned were hymns in church or in children's choirs, but that was the first I learned to play on my own.
What was your first guitar?
It was I have it here.
Oh, really?
So it's this little 3/4 size. Who made it? It was $24.
Oh my gosh.
Conqueror. Serial number 3972. Yeah.
How does it sound now?
Way out of tune. But it was gut string, because my cousin, who was a professional player, thought gut string would be easier on my little fingers than steel string. And it cost $24, and it sat for years and years and years until about maybe 5 or 6 years ago. One day, one of the strings just broke, but this is it. I wanted a purple velvet one, but my dad mom said, maybe just go with the other one. So I did.
Had you seen a purple velvet guitar somewhere?
Yeah. Well, my cousin and my dad and mom, I think, was there. We went down to the guitar store, and they were, all different kinds of guitars. And one had a purple velvet, back of the guitar. This was a long time ago. I'm talking, this has been 1972 or something like that. Maybe before then. So anyway, I wanted the purple velvet, but they dissuaded me.
What was the first song you wrote?
The first song I wrote was just kind of an emulation of a song. It was called Didn't They Know the People? And I actually wrote it on piano, but not really, like with chords and stuff. It was just a melody. And it went like this. Didn't they know the people? Didn't they know them well? More than 40,000 people, and they weren't doing nothing wrong. That was it.
Wow. Well, what was this about?
I have no idea. Yeah, I'd been exposed to a lot of protest songs, Peter, Paul, and Mary, and I was just emulating what I thought a song was, but I had no idea what it meant. And I think I wrote that when I was 7.
Oh my gosh. What was the first song you wrote that you were really proud of? Like, I think I could record this.
Well, I wrote a song in high school called I'm So Sorry. I think it was called, or I'm Sorry, something like that. And we had these Miss SHS pageants. I was in the pageant and I played that song. I thought it was a pretty good song, but I never recorded it. And then the first song that Amy and I had together, which was actually our first recording, it was on a single, 45, was Crazy Game.
Mm. And that ended up on your first album?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. You talked about being obsessed with Michael Jackson. Was that your first obsession? Or was there another artist that really kind of took over everything for you?
I mean, the Jackson 5, I wasn't obsessed. Well, I was obsessed with I was in love with him as a young girl, but it was the group, the Jackson 5, that really captured my attention. And I used to get those teen magazines like Tiger Beat or whatever and cut out their pictures and put them in my closet. So I don't think I really got obsessed with another artist until maybe the beginning of high school. And I got obsessed with the band Heart. And then Joni Mitchell was my very biggest obsession for the longest time. And then when I was in college at Tulane, which would have been 81, so I would have been 17 or 18, I got really obsessed with funk music like the Commodores and Rick James and just groups like that. So,
yeah.
But Joni Mitchell was the songwriting obsession.
Do you have a very favorite song of hers?
Oh, man. I love her whole catalog. Probably the song Hijira, if I'm pronouncing that right, which is the title track to that album. I listened to over and over and over. I wore out the grooves on the LP when I was in college. And there's just something about that song. I think it's just her and maybe Jaco Pastorius on bass. And I think that may be about it.
Yeah.
Just brilliant writing.
Yeah. What was the first Heartache song you remember really connecting with? There
was, and still is, a Canadian singer-songwriter named Farron.
I know Farron.
Okay, so Farron's song, Our Purpose Here. Oh, God, talk about a great songwriter. That song really was, and I was in high school, and that was the first, I played that song over and over and over again. Just the way Farron's a very understated writer, and just the way she captured the loneliness of an ensuing breakup was just, and I've never been through anything like that, but ever since I was a little kid, I was very, very sensitive to other people's feelings and what they were going through. I was a big reader. And so I sort of lived vicariously through the heartache and heartbreak of that song.
What about Ain't Life a Brook? You know that tune?
That one too.
Oh, God, that's
you know what? I'm wrong. I said the wrong song. I meant Ain't Life a Brook.
Oh, okay.
Ain't Life a Brook. Yeah. There was another great song I loved her. Oh, my gosh. Thanks for reminding me.
That's okay. Because you were talking about, a breakup, and that song for me, boy, there's it's just killer.
So I watch you reading a book. I get to feel the melody and that's the one. Ain't Life a Brook.
Okay. How did you get turned on to Farron? Because in high school, I mean, for me, discovering women's music, and she used to fall under that banner of women's music. How did that end up coming into your life?
I think I had maybe actually I may have been a student of my dad's who was into all kinds of music, and we just kind of like sort of hung out all together, and she introduced me to some of the women's music like Chris Williamson. And then Vicki Randall had a show at Tulane I remember going to, and there were certain, but Farron was the creme de la creme, just really in a league of her own. But it was about that time when I was getting introduced to all those other women artists who were doing it on their own, that I got introduced to Farron. And both Amy and we became friends with Farron, but have the utmost respect for her songwriting. Just incredible.
Yeah. What was the name of the first band you played with? I guess would be Indigo Girls, or was there another band you were part of?
No, well, actually, gosh, the more you ask me these, I thought I had my answers, and then I go. When I was in 7th grade, I had a little group called the Blue Skies, and it was me and Kay Grimes and Leslie Jolly, and we used to play in the lunchroom. And Amy remembers that and seeing us playing in the lunchroom. She would have been in 6th grade and me in 7th. But then Amy and I used to call ourselves Saliers and Ray. So that was the first real band.
What was your all's first professional gig, you and Amy?
Well, my own professional gig was when I was 14 for a Democratic gathering of some sort. It was like a political fundraiser. So that was kind of cool. Our first gig together professionally, it was probably at one of those, like we called them fern bars. Like we got fake IDs and we went out and we played. And we played at a place called Good Old Days that had an open mic night. So it wasn't really professional, but you could make tips. And that was one of the first ones too.
Why did you call them fern bars? What's that mean?
They were like the kind of the Applebee's of back then, and they had ferns in like these like grass urn type things, and so they were kind of like middle of the road American food / bar food decorated with ferns, and that's why we called them fern bars. But they don't do this anymore, obviously, but they had there was all kinds of places that had live music back then. It was incredible. We got gigs at all kinds of weird places.
What was the weirdest?
Well, we played a resort in Georgia. Nobody was there, and the waitresses wanted to all go home. And they're like, you can cut your set early, and that was kind of strange.
Yeah.
We played anywhere and everywhere we could. We just wanted to play.
Yeah. What was the first concert you went to?
John Denver.
Where was it? And how old were you?
In Atlanta at the Omni, and I must have been 13. So I went straight from John Denver into Heart. There's a real divide between one thing and the next.
Right. Were you a huge fan of his? Did you go with a friend or?
I was always a huge fan of his. I probably went with my parents, my mom or my parents. I don't think my sisters went. And I was very proud. I wore this those shirts that have the bandanas that make a design right here and the rest is like a denim shirt. It's like a cowboy shirt. I was very, very proud of that shirt. I think my mom might have made it. And it was exciting. The Omni was huge and I was a huge fan. And I mean, that just blew my mind. And then my cousin, who was a professional performer, he's like, John Denver's great, but you should check out Elton John too while you're at it. And I became totally obsessed with Elton John after that.
Who in Heart were you obsessed with? Was it Anne or Nancy or?
It was the combination. I think as a girl, there just weren't that many women, and there's certainly any women rock bands that I was aware of. And they were, Anne's voice, there's no other voice like that. There hasn't been. And then Nancy played guitar and they were sisters. So their blend was, like only a sister blend can be. And I loved their songs, and their rock songs kind of scared me a little bit. I hadn't really been listening to rock music, and I was just starting high school, and that was kind of crazy and wild. And so I love both the sisters, and I love the band. I love the arrangements of the songs, and I just love the songs, all of them.
Yeah. You have a Lizzo shirt on, right?
Yep.
Have you seen her in concert or you?
Yes, I saw her. I guess it's been a couple years now. I saw her at a smaller gig in Atlanta called the Tabernacle. And I was a huge Lizzo fan before she like exploded. And my big sister and I love Lizzo and talked about Lizzo and how much we loved her. And she's just a cool woman from everything I can tell.
Yeah.
But her energy on stage was amazing, and everybody was just losing their heads, and I love live music. I wish I could see concerts all the time.
Boy, I bet. What was the last concert you saw before the pandemic hit?
Indigo Girls. I'm trying to think. I mean, I have to dig back because my memory is so distracted by the fact that we were right in the middle of a tour and just everything stopped cold, and that was it. I know I got to see Janelle Monáe and I got to see Lizzo. Those are the two that come to mind that I saw in the recent past before the pandemic hit.
Yeah. What are you doing during this pandemic? What are you able to do?
Well, Amy and I have been doing live streams, and we're working on a live, it's going to be a live stream, but it's me and Amy, we record our parts, and then the band, most of whom are in the UK area, our drummers in Sweden, and other folks to record their parts, and then it's going to be like a split screen performance. Mm-hmm. We were really sad that we came out with this album that we loved and this great band, and that we didn't get to tour with the band. So this is kind of a way of presenting the band. And the work has been pretty tedious, actually. We have to work out times when we can be in a studio and get masked up and have our own corners. And Amy she wasn't directly exposed, but had an exposure that she had to go into quarantine and the holidays. So it's been a real labor of love, but that's one thing we've been working on. And we're going to have another live stream tomorrow. Wow. Tomorrow. And I am working on my own. I'm working on, I started a Patreon page where I'm sharing new music and teaching guitar lessons and like sharing old demos of mine. And we're going to have a songwriting workshop. So I've been doing that. And then I'm working on 2 different musicals, which is really fun.
Musicals?
Yeah.
Well, like what? I mean,
well, 2 different people got in touch with me. One was a woman who's already in a musical writing team, and she heard the song Country Radio from the album Look Long, and she wrote me an email and said, as soon as I heard that song, I saw a musical. And I was like, oh, okay, well, should we try? I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea. And the other one was a friend of a friend who's been in Broadway, and she was writing a musical, and she's a fan of our music, and she just asked me, would I write the music? And I said yes, and I'm obsessed with it. I love it. It keeps me creative. There's always a challenge. It strengthens my technical ability on recording at home with my software and stuff. And it's just been wonderful. I love it.
So it's got to be different because you're writing for somebody else's story, I would think.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
It is different. And like in both teams, like Beth Malone is the one, she was in Fun Home on Broadway, and she's a TV actress and so on. And she has very, very clear ideas about what she wants for the characters. So some of the songs include things that she's actually written, and then I tweak the words. And then other songs are things that I've written. And then she'll probably include a couple songs of mine that Indigo Girls recorded. And then in the other one, we're all like, I'm co-working with another musical partner. And then Michelle, who writes the book, writes some of the lyrics too. So it's completely different. It's extremely collaborative.
Well, that's exciting. I can't wait to hear what comes out of this. That sounds really, really neat.
Me too.
Are there titles for these musicals yet? Or
no, they're both fairly new. We just have begun, and there's a working title for one, but it hasn't been confirmed yet. So, but one is the story of a park ranger who wants to bring a dark sky reserve to a small town in Idaho. And the other is the story of a young queer gal growing up in the South, and what she loves about the South and what she has to leave and come to terms with in her journey, roughly speaking. So they're very different.
Fantastic. What record are you listening to right now that you're really loving?
I listened to Bon Iver, I.
Mm,
I love that album. I've
mm.
been listening to a lot of Casey Musgraves. Um, and honestly, I haven't taken a lot of time to listen to a lot of music because I've been so consumed with one being a mom. My daughter's in virtual school, and I got a lot of dishes to do and things to cook, and then I've got these musicals and then the projects with Amy. So I haven't spent a lot of active listening time, but those two things. Casey Musgraves, I love her voice. And Bon Iver, Justin Vernon, he really is a visionary. I really can get lost in his albums. I love them.
Mhm. What would be a heartache song you would go to now?
Oh, okay. So it's older, but I Can't Make You Love Me that Bonnie Raitt sings. And then Miley Cyrus recently had a single out called Slide Away that I absolutely love. I'm a huge Miley Cyrus and Noah Cyrus fan.
Hmm.
So I would say I Can't Make You Love Me and Slide Away are ones that I would listen to now if I wanted to get sad.
Okay. And what about a song that would just really lift you up?
Casey Musgraves released a version of a song of hers. It's called Oh What a World, and she has an Earth Day version that's acoustic. And that's the song I play when I want to just feel good instantaneously.
Oh, What a World 2.0, I think she calls
Yeah,
it. Right?
that's
Yeah, yeah.
I
It's
love.
beautiful. Mhm.
Oh, I love the sound of the drums. They're not really drums, and I love the guitar parts in it, and then her voice, all of this, and then there is you in the lyrics. It's just I love it. Exquisite. Sublime.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's pretty much it. Emily, thank you so much for doing this today. Really appreciate you taking out a little bit of time. You sound like you're extremely busy in the
Yeah,
middle of this pandemic.
yeah. I mean, but my family's been blessed. You know, we've stayed healthy, and there's a lot of suffering going on out there. It's just really, really hard to fathom. So I really am grateful for the things that I'm able to do, and the health of my family and the people I love. So I can't complain. But
Right
thanks for
on.
having me, and we appreciate y'all so much.
Same here. You take care.
All right, you too.
Bye.